This may be super duper controversial, but to be honest, first of all, I don't get the American humor. Save a lot of money. Loka-loka ka ba? Are you insane? It came to a point that I was so disappointed with myself. Hello, it's Zoe and welcome back to my channel. Finally, it's been a while since we had this different setup. I know it's a break from my usual day-to-day vlogs that I share with you guys every week, and I want to start off this video to apologize for the late uploads and also for the infrequent uploads. I used to post 2 times a week, but then recently things just get super duper busy, so I just didn't have time to do so. But I'm not neglecting you guys. I am planning for more videos to come aside from vlogs, just to diversify the content a little bit and just to keep you guys entertained. Let's just dive right into the video. Okay, so in today's video I am going to do a Q&A, which I haven't done before. I was actually thinking of doing that as my first video, but I wanted to build up people on my channel first and then get to know my day-to-day, and then you guys can start to get to know me a little bit more in detail. I sent out a question, like a question box in my Instagram and on Facebook, and I asked some of my people who follows me on both channels some questions that you guys have about my life here in New York. Whether it be personal or job related, or even just some, you know, technical things or whatever, like logistics of moving to New York, whatever. So I have it all in my phone, and also I have my coffee here. I'm actually turning it backwards because my best friend from the Philippines gave this to me, and it's actually like a boob. So basically I have my coffee and I have croissants from Miss Madeline because I want this to be very casual, very natural, and this is how I spend my day. I grab coffee, usually iced coffee, but I had iced coffee this morning with my family, and then I get croissants on the side. So before we start with the questions, if you are new here, hello, it's Zoe. I am a born and raised Filipina living in New York City. I make videos about my day-to-day life here in New York, and also my work week in my life working as an account manager at an advertising agency in the city. So if you are into that kind of content, make sure to click that subscribe button below. Click the like button if you're liking this so far, or maybe later after this video, and don't forget to share this with your friends if you really love this video. I don't know. Okie dokie, let me just start by sipping a cup of coffee, and then I will dive into my croissants later. So I will break this Q&A down into 3 sections. So I received a couple of questions which I think would be enough to make an entire video off of the Q&As, and it is like a diverse set of questions. There are questions related to my job, related to my life, like rent, how I'm adjusting, culture, and then also the last part is like New York in general, what I love about New York, what I recommend for people who want to go to New York. So that's basically what the video will be encompassing with. At the same time, since this is also a way for you guys to get to know me better, I'll give you guys a quick intro about my life in New York. I actually did a whole video of me moving to New York City, which I will insert on this side or on this side. I am not entirely sure, but it should be either here or here. But yeah, I moved to New York City in 2019, September 2019, fresh off of the Philippines. I was staying with my parents in Virginia then, and I told my mom, "Ma, I want to move to New York. Gusto ko mag-move sa New York. I will find a job in New York. I will find a place to rent in New York, and I will like move out completely and stay there." And she's like, "Loka-loka ka ba? Are you insane? Who's gonna take care of you? Where are you gonna find an apartment?" I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna find a job first, and I'll figure it out. Let's see what happens next. And here I am right now. Been living in New York City for almost 2 years now. 2 years will be in September, and I enjoy it so far. New York City is the best decision that I've ever made. It was a leap of faith. I do had to leave a lot of important people back in the Philippines, and also I needed to, you know, step back a little in terms of my professional career. I was doing well in the Philippines. I loved my job, but I had to leave it for something that is further, which is New York, and things just fell into places, and there are a lot more things that I know that I can explore more here. There's a lot more opportunities, and there's a lot more room to grow and get to know myself better. And with that, let's start with the first question. So I have it in my phone. I took a screenshot of the questions that you guys sent over. So I will start with questions about my job, because I think that's one of the most common things that is asked by some people that I didn't know, or some people that I know from the Philippines, and like asking how I got my job in New York City. I actually also have a video like where I talk about in-depth job related questions, or like how I found my job in New York City, etc. But let's get to it very briefly, so I'll insert the video here. But one of the things that one of my friend, it's Janica, she's my high school friend. Hello Janica, shout out. She asked me how to look for a job abroad. So in my case, first you need to have a visa to go abroad, but there are a lot of ways to get a visa. Specifically in the US, you can get like a work visa. I know it's like H-1B visa. You can also get like a scholarship visa where you can go to States for school. I think it was J-1 visa. I can do an entire video about this. I do have friends who knows more than I do, but for me, I am a green card holder, so it was easier for me to move to the States. My mom had it first, and then she petitioned me and my brother to be here in the States, and that's how we got our green card. But first thing you need to have is visa. You need to do a lot of research on where you are applicable, which visa is applicable to your situation. There's a lot of like more deeper things to talk about on that area, but my advice is to do research, see what best applies to your situation. There are a lot of resources online. I'll try to put some information below, but if you have any specific questions though, please comment below. I can make a whole entire video about this, because it is a longer conversation and we can do like a case-by-case basis. I think that would be helpful to discuss. But yeah, first look for visa that applies to your situation, and then I would say second, once you have that settled down, you move to the place that you're gonna go to. If you're gonna move to a foreign country, you need to make sure that you have a place to stay already. You need to organize that before your move, and I would advise you to, before you go to that, before you move forward with that decision, save a lot of money, because countries like the United States, everything is expensive. Coming from the Philippines, I'm originally from the Philippines, and my salary in the Philippines is not even enough for my rent, my monthly rent here in the States. So I did save a lot. I worked in the Philippines for a year before I moved to the States, in order to save and also to gain experience, because once you move here to New York, there are a lot of competition. Competition from people who already graduated here, and also since New York is a very diverse place, there are also people coming in from different countries, and you just like compete for the same job, and it's very difficult. And I find that it would be helpful if you have like relevant experience from your home country, and use that as leverage whenever you go to interviews to your future job. So again, number one, visa. Number two, gain experience and save as much money as you can, and research on how much the rent, the food, like save at least 3 months worth of living, or 3 to 4 months worth of living, just so you're comfortable and you're not like worried so much about, you know, expenses every single time. And then I'd say lastly, it takes so much courage to move to a foreign country, so make sure to prepare yourself, especially if you're moving alone, you're moving to a foreign country by yourself. There's culture shock, language barrier, like there's a lot of things that you have to adjust on, and it takes a lot of courage. So those are the 3 advice that I would say before you move abroad. But you know guys, I'm a firm believer that nothing is impossible. It may seem impossible right now, but do your research, do your part, and things will fall into places eventually. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes money, a lot of money to be in where I am right now. I saved a lot of money, I sacrificed a lot of things, but it was all worth it, and now I am having a good time in the city of my dreams. Let's move on to the second question. Okay, whatever question is it hard? So she said, is it hard to get a job in New York po? Is there any form of discrimination? So this is a very interesting question, because that was my first concern when I first moved here, because I was so concerned of, you know, since I didn't graduated in the States, I came from a third world country. My first thought was like, companies will not see me as a good candidate because I didn't have the experience as the other candidates that are applying for the job. But my mindset was, you know, I'll just keep on trying. Like, I'm in a country that they're fortunate enough to have job listings every single day, and you can just apply and apply and apply. So I was just patient. I was like job hunting every single day. It came to a point that I was so disappointed with myself, and I took a break for a week, and then I got back on track and just like apply and apply. I mean, like, there will be a lot of rejections, there will also be a lot of success. I had interviews that had like a big, like, so many stages, but then they rejected me at the end. They're like, they called me, they seemed interested, but they never called me back. Just love that instances. That's why in the first question, like what it takes to like to work abroad, you have to have a lot of like strength and courage, because there will be those instances that will just break your heart, will get you disappointed, but it's all gonna be worth it. And in terms of like discrimination, I think I'm a little bit biased because I'm in New York, and New York is very diverse. Like, even if you go to the subway, there will be a lot of people from different parts of the world. It's like United Nations every single day. So I find it easier for me to adjust, especially in the culture, because in the company we're very diverse. And I didn't feel left out. My first insecurity was the language barrier, because English is not my first language, but they didn't care. Like, even with my job, like, I talk to clients all the time, and they're very, like, English is their first language, so they're very fluent, and they didn't mind me when there are times that I like blank, like I don't know what to say for a second, and then I get back on track. But they don't care. Like, they understand that English is not your first language, but the most important thing is you get the message forward, and that's it. It's basic communication. As long as the receiver understands what you're saying and they can, you know, interact with you, that's all that matters. It's okay to be insecure, it's okay to be scared, but you will overcome it eventually. Like, I see myself, if I hear myself speak when I first moved to New York compared to how I speak right now, it's totally different, and it's just super duper funny. I do have recordings from my first few months in New York, because I was trying to exercise my language, my speaking skills. Comparing it right now, it's insane. It's really insane. Wow, I talk a lot. Moving on to the moving part. So I do have a lot of questions about asking me about like my rent, how I moved, what advice do I have to people who moved to the States. I'm just gonna go for it one by one. So I think the best question to start off with is, adjusting to the New York life. I like this question. They actually added another question. It's from Clyde, my friend from college. Hi Clyde, shout out. Like and subscribe, just kidding. Actually, Clyde, if you're watching, you were one of the first person who encouraged me to start my own channel, so thank you for pushing me. Here I am doing it right now. So I'm gonna go through your question. So her question was, she wanted to know how I adjusted to the New York life, especially during a pandemic. Interesting fact, when I moved to New York, it was September 2019, so it was like later 2019, and then the pandemic started the next year, 2020, which is around like March. That's when like the lockdown started, and New York was like the peak, was like the epicenter of the pandemic. So a lot of things has happened. So I didn't really enjoy. I did enjoy my life, my first few months in the city. But I was just disappointed because the next year I told myself 2020 would be my year because I finally have a job I wanted. I'm comfortable living in New York. I'm comfortable living in New York. I had some savings. I want to travel. I want to go to Europe or to Japan or everywhere else. I have the savings for my travel plans. So I was like super duper excited to go through 2020, and then 2020 happened, the pandemic happened, and all my travel plans are just like said goodbye. So I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna make the most out of it. And also like the New York nightlife, the New York city lights at night. Like, New York is such a busy city. There's so much things to do. I still have a bunch of things that is on my bucket list. This is the type of city that you just have like hundreds and hundreds of pages of bucket list. I did do that in the first few months that I was in the city, but then I did have a lot of plans, so I was disappointed. I was about to, you know, spend my first spring in the city, wear my pastel clothes and walk around Madison Avenue or in Soho with my fashionable items, but then nobody was out. Like, I didn't have that chance, so I was very, very disappointed. However, it was a turning point because that's how I discovered my love for baking. It was also the time that I had to spend the whole pandemic period with my family. From March to June, almost July, I was with my mom in Virginia, and they moved to Tampa, so I was able to help them. And we started our own business. There are a lot of things that has happened during the pandemic, and I know New York will always be my home. And I got back here, and then earlier this year, starting in March, things started to open up, and now I get to enjoy the things that I wasn't able to enjoy last year. I was lucky enough to get vaccinated, to go out, and then to witness New York reliving the moment, because those are we had the lost times, and now we're making up to it, and New York is like stronger than ever and more fun than ever. So that's how I adjusted. It was disappointing, but it was worth it. The wait was worth it. You know, like the feeling of going back to things that you used to do, and then you stopped doing it for a year, and then now you started to get back on track again. It's just a good feeling. Next question is, this is from Chelsea. Hi, my friend from high school. She also went to the same college with me, and I know she also wanted to go to New York, so this is for you. She asked, how are you able to adjust to the culture, and also was it difficult interacting with people? Okay, so one thing that I was concerned about going to New York is I don't know anyone my age was in New York City. Most of the people that my mom knew that are here, that she like binilin, I'm not sure what bilin is in Tagalog, lives in Queens. I live in the city, so it takes travel time, you know, first world problems. And also I don't know anyone my age in the city that I can hang out with when I first moved here, so it was difficult for me move around. Luckily I found friends, mutual friends. Hey Rach, shout out. She and one other friend that we have from work, so I found like a group of people my age, and we spent so much time together. But like, I can't imagine how life would be if I moved here and I didn't know anyone. It was almost the case until I met them. It was hard. First of all, I don't get the American humor. I'm still not used to it. It's more of like sarcasm, and I feel like it's just rude sometimes, but I kind of adjusted, but I just don't get it. So sometimes if they make it a joke and people laugh, I just laugh. And also, they love sports. I'm not a big sports fan, so there was a lot of adjusting to make. It's hard to find people that you can bond with. It's not like the Philippines that you get to be with your friends from college, from high school, and hang out in the mall, or like go to a coffee shop and just chat and chat and chat, and you guys know a lot of people. But here there's like less mutual friends. But I think one thing that helped me out the most was Facebook groups. Start with something small. Start with your community, the Filipino community. So I started joining Filipino Facebook groups, and then I found some people there, and I find friends that I still connect to right now, and we find a good connection together, and we still hang out. If I need someone to go to somewhere, like I love going to restaurants and I don't want to go alone. Sometimes if I want to try out like a lot of food because I can finish them, I ask my friend to go with me, and I found some good people. And you just have to be careful sometimes, but based on my experience, I haven't had any issues. And I also have friends from work, which also work. I don't know how to make friends with people who didn't grow up with me, like people who didn't have the same culture as me. But I find that sharing your stories to your coworkers, or sharing stories from people that you barely know, is helpful to make a bond. Maybe you find a connection, and that's how you eventually became close friends. It is also common here in the States to go to, for example, a house party or do a friend's party, and there'll be a lot of people. Their parties here are boring for me at first because it's all about like talking. You spend your time going to a friend's house, bring food, and then just talk and talk and talk with random people, like friends of friends. It's like all mutual friends. But it's fun to like meet new people at a friend's party or an event and just start a conversation. Simple hi, hello, how are you, what do you do, how do you know her, blah blah blah, and then eventually starts a conversation and you find that connection. So that is important. Find that connection and it's all gonna be a good conversation. If the connection is not there, it's fine. There are so many fish in the sea. This is not just about relationship. There's a lot of people in the city that you can meet and connect to. If it's not there, don't push it, because someday you'll find someone that you'll connect with and you'll have a good friendship together, which I was lucky to have one here. Next question. This is from Dana. She's my internet friend too. We met through YouTube and then Instagram, so shout out. Hello. Screenshot if you see this. Make sure you're here. Anyway, her question was, if given a chance to permanently stay there and only visit the Philippines, would you accept it? I would say yes. This may be super duper controversial, but to be honest, there's a lot more opportunities here. I worked in the Philippines before for a year. Like salary, to be honest, salary itself, it's not much. It's enough for you to survive. Like if you live in your parents' house, it's enough for you to buy your baon or your lunch and your commute and some like couple of things on a day-to-day basis, like some wants. And then your savings will be just super duper small. But then when I moved here to the States, it was difficult for me to adjust at first because I was like living on a check-by-check basis and everything was just super duper expensive. But once I got to have like savings, I get to enjoy my money, I get to save, I get to buy the things that I want, I get to live on my own, pay for my apartment, pay for my food, but then still have that savings on the side. and I see a lot of good opportunities for my future family. If I ever decide to settle in New York or settle somewhere in the States, I know that they will go to a good school. They have more opportunities because they have really good schools here. Not that I am saying that we don't have good schools in the Philippines, but there's just a lot of opportunities here, and I always think forward. I always think about what my future family would need, because I do want to have a big family and I do want them to be happy. I want them to have their own space, to have their own, you know, make their own life, curate their future without worrying about some other things. And I know that once they get a job, they will be comfortable living on their own. They will be more independent. They will be more mature, and yeah, that's what I can say. That's why I would be okay staying in the States rather than staying in the Philippines and go to the States for vacation. Philippines will always be my home, and most of my family is there, so I go back, see my family, enjoy my stay in my home country, and then just go back to the States for work and to live my life and to live the life that I curated for myself. There's a big difference. I know it is controversial, because you should love your country. I love my country. I love the Philippines. I love the culture. I love the food. My family is there. That's where I grew up. Like, I am not the woman that I am today if I didn't grow up in the Philippines. I don't have the same stories that I've had if I grew up in the Philippines. I do have a unique story, and I love sharing it with other people, but there is some point in your life that you need to move on and you need to think about your future, and I would say the States is the future for me and for my future family. Hope you guys don't hate me for that, but it is what it is. We may have a different approach to this, but for me, that's how I see it, and it is working for me, and that's all that matters. And then, okay, that became super emotional.